Before we begin, click subscribe to stay up to date with all of our newest video content.
This is Jessica Morency. The knowledge tip from CS3 today is creating secure queries, the basics. Within your Sage HRMS or your Sage Abra Suite reports menu, you have an item called Secure Query. This allows you to create quick and easy reports from any of the information found on the HR from your Abra Suite or Sage HRMS. I'm going to click on New to create a new report, and I'm going to create one that will help me identify employees that need to be reevaluated for the new Department of Labor regulations. So I'm just going to call this DOL report. I can choose to make it private or public. If I make it private, no other users will be able to see this. I could choose to make it public, and all other users within the HRMS system would be allowed to see this and run the report, or I could choose instead to share it with just a few select other users. So I'm going to keep this one private and click OK. And I'm presented with the options to add some basic information, so I can choose in plain English what type of data I want to include in the report. I don't need to know any of the specific database schema like you do when you're building other reports in Crystal. So I can tell that I want to have some demographic information. I want that employee's name. I want to see their current pay, and I also want to pull in their job title. So I'm going to pull in current job. Under step 2, I have additional information that I can pick, whether it's a custom page that I've created or some of the other secondary items about the employee's information that we track within HR. I'm not going to use any of this for this particular report, so I'm going to skip on to the next step. And now I have the option to pick from any of the fields available within that demographic, current job, or current pay area that I selected originally. So I'm going to pick a few fields here, and I don't have to go in any particular order, as you'll see. So I'm going to pick, I want to see their annual pay. I'm going to identify employees that are categorized as exempt and under that threshold of $47,476. So I want to see their annual pay. I also want to see some other information about them, so I want to come down to exempt status. And I'm going to put exempt description just to make it easier on the report. So rather than yes or no, I'll see exempt or non-exempt. I'm going to pick their job title. Maybe I also want to see their department, so you could pull in other information, of course, as you wanted to. And I want to see their name, and you'll see that some of the fields here are combined. So I have the option for first, middle, last, comma, first or middle, or I could choose to select first name as one field, last name as another field if I wanted to. I'm just going to pick the last, first, and middle for my report. So now I'll be able to see the employee's name, their job title, whether they're exempt or non-exempt, and their annual pay. But I don't necessarily want them in this order, so I can easily click and drag into any order that I'd like. Once I have all the fields that I want, I can click OK. And now I have options to tailor the report a little bit more. So I have the fields available. I can come back in and select additional ones if I need to. I can choose to group them. If I want to group them by any of the fields within here. I don't need to group these in any way, so I'm going to leave the grouping off. I could choose to sort the records if I wanted them to be sorted alphabetically by last name, by exempt or non-exempt in that order. I don't need to sort any records on this particular report, so I'm going to click on to the next step 4. The set record filters is really where you're allowed to pull in the data that's specific to what you want to see. So if I were to not set any record filters on this, I would see every single record in the database, whether they were a terminated employee, an active employee. I'd see them regardless of which company they're in, which status, etc. So what I want to do here is set some filters for the report to show just the information that I want to see. So if I click on Set Record Filter, I can pick the field, and it doesn't have to be, as you can see, one that I've already selected in the report, but I can pick the field that I want to do a filter on. So if I had multiple companies and I only wanted to include one or several, I could choose company code. In this instance, I'm wanting to see employees that are under a certain salary. So I'm going to click on annual pay, and I want to say is less than, and I'm going to type in that threshold from the Department of Labor regulations. So this will show me employees that are less than that salary. But that's not the only criteria that I want to see. Don't forget, this is going to do all active and terminated employees. So one common filter that you'll add is going to be to define the status. So I want to say the exempt employees under a certain status and that I have an active status. So I'm going to come into the employee status field. So I want to say exactly matches A for active. So I just want to see my active employees. I click OK. Now I have my employee status exactly matches A for active, and their annual pay is less than the Department of Labor regulations of $47,476. There's one more criteria that I do want to add, and I want to see only those employees that have an exempt status. Those are the ones that I'm concerned with possibly needing to reevaluate. So I'm going to click on Add once again, and I'm going to say and I'm going to find that exempt status. So I can do exempt, yes or no, and I'm going to say exactly matches, yes for exempt. If I wanted to add more and get more detailed with adding other criteria, there are additional options for filtering that report. This is just a basic video, so I'm not going to cover that in this one, but there is the ability to do bracketing of different filters so that you can specify more if you want to see this and something else, or you wanted to see another criteria that is multiple filters, say 2 or 3 filter lines. You could bracket and do a comparison and set your filters that way as well. But that's a little bit more involved than we're going to get in this particular video. With the 3 that I have chosen here, that's what I'm going to use for this report. I'll click on Done. And then I have my output results option. So of course Excel and Word are the 2 that most are commonly used. You do have other options though if you want to save this as an ASCII file, a TXT file, but I'm going to save this as an Excel because I want to manipulate the data a little bit further. So I'm going to hit Run Query. I could also view data if I just wanted to see it on screen, make sure I had everything I needed before I bothered to run the query. It's entirely up to you if you want to do the view data. I'm just going to hit the Run Query, and yes, I want to view this, and yes, I want to open that. So now I have all of my exempt employees. Let me just format this a little here. I have all of my exempt employees that are underneath the DOL's new regulations. So these are the employees that I'm going to need to take a look at during my reassessment process. And that was it. It's just that easy to create a basic query.
Was this video helpful? Click subscribe to see more videos like this one.